Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Carla Moore. I'm an artist, an activist, an academic, and an alchemist. And today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about pleasure and trauma. Before I go any further, I want to thank Shireen and Onisha for inviting me to deliver this keynote. And I know that it's really on time because since I've started preparing for it, a lot of people have come to me to have conversations just randomly about seeking pleasure and seeking joy in their own lives and the experience of doing that with a history of trauma. So now I get to share that with you. Before I go any further, I also want to big up the people who are here to support me. I want to thank my tribe. I want to thank my ancestors for always walking with me. I want to thank my elders, two of whom are here because my parents are in the chat. And I want to thank you for deciding to attend this session. So before we go any further, let me share my screen. Go. Now I have to do the thing. Is everyone seeing my screen? Are you able to see my screen? Because it said it's paused and I'm not sure why.
So yeah, we were able to see it. You were good.
It was lying.
Yeah.
I can't take the deception. Okay. So my presentation is called I Like It, but Not a Lot. I Don't Like It, which if you're on social media, you might identify. And I've titled it that way because I think for a lot of people with trauma, that's actually how our relationship with pleasure plays out. Like we like it and then it starts to get uncomfortable and then we don't like it anymore. I do want to give some trigger warnings around mental health, sexual assault, fat phobia, and queer phobia. I won't go into much detail on the topics, but they do come up, right? But before we go any further, actually, let's take it back. And if you know the song, you can put it in the chat and also dance if you want to. Robin, I feel like you might know this one.
Mayday! Yep. Good to go again. Dance all night again. John, Morgan, Kiva, Stacy. People smile again. Sunny can be dance all fraternity. Do what you feel like. Yep. Mayday! Shit, I'm dancing. Everybody jump in the people. Who don't ready dance up? Get on the dance now. Dancing at Jamaica, Mickle name. Feel the people of England have trend. Immigration, I call out your name. The make your friend get caught. Signal the plane. Signal the plane, make we signal the plane. Signal the plane, make we signal the plane. Signal the plane, make we signal the plane. Now make your friend get caught. Signal the plane. Cool. From you know you in your own suit. Lava lava show them the parachute. Parachute, parachute. Everybody feel you do the parachute. Good. You jump on the gun, then you do your thing. Boom. Hey, John, show them the chaplain. Yeah. Chaplain, chaplain. Bogle, go and give them. Good.
Okay, so I'll stop there. The year was somewhere between 2002 and 2007. At my age, those types of details don't matter as much. The only thing that you remember is that Cash Money was still taking over for the 99 2000 and Justin Bieber was not a thing yet, right? At that point in time, I was still myself. Facts, loud, proud. I was kicking ass. I wasn't even really caring about the names because really, sir, who cares about your name? I had a crew of friends who loved me. We thought that we were invincible. Actually, when we were together, we would think that we were invisible, which caused us to do some very questionable things in public spaces. But this was before camera phones. So there's actually no memory of this. So we can run for public office if we want to. And I loved dancing, right? I love dancing so much that I actually ended up in a music video, which I could show you, but it was back before camera phones and we were still saving things on digital hard drives. So we lost a lot of things in the archive, but just take my word for it. I loved dancing, right? I was the girl on the dance floor standing right behind the dance crew. Like if Elephant Man shizzle, I would maneuver. If Elephant Man would sweat, the sweat would land on me. Right? Sometimes I would be taking a bottle of Appleton to the head. But at that age, my liver was very resilient. I was on the river, upon the bank, whining like a gypsy. I was signaling the plane. I was bogling to the ground and I was butterflying back up because then I had Megan Thee Stallion knees. It was a great time to be alive. Like Tiny Whiny had nothing on me. It would be a few more years before I started to become self-conscious about how much I would sweat when I dance. And I thought it was because I was so fat that my body couldn't handle the movement. So first, I danced less. I started to do like a small church rock and not like a Black Baptist Pentecostal church, because those churches, it's like the club. I would do like, the type of church rock that you see in a white church with a young hip pastor and an active music ministry, like so I would be in the party like that. Then I moved to the side of the dance floor because I thought if there were fewer people around, then it would be cooler and I would sweat less. Then I gave up rum entirely and I spent all of my time at the parties chewing on ice and sipping water. Eventually, I stopped dancing altogether and I spent most of my time standing in front of the fan or whatever cooling device was available. I did just about everything to stop sweating. And I forebode people from touching me in parties because, as far as I could tell, my body was a fat, sweaty, absolutely disgusting mess. And in my head, I could hear the terrible things that people would say after they had touched me and, they had come away sweaty. So this whole thing from COVID-19 where they're like, oh, don't hug anybody. Oh, child, that's nothing new to me. I stopped hugging people back in the early 2000s, right? Back when oversized pants and like backward caps were a thing. It wasn't until 2021, this year, that I realized that my sweating had nothing to do with my weight and everything to do with my growing anxiety in social spaces. Because 2002 to 2007 was before I went to Canada, and that a Take Back the Night rally unexpectedly shared the story of my sexual assault at 7 years old. Unexpectedly, because though I had never denied that the thing happened, I'd never really spoken about it too much or considered how it shaped my life. 2002 to 2007 is before I, in the course of dating, reanimated all of my trauma around abandonment, not being enough, and somehow simultaneously being too much. 2002 to 2007 was before I stopped being fun, fat, feminist me and became anxious, depressed, second guessing myself into silence me. To put it another way, 2002 to 2007 was before I ran out of energy and could no longer disguise my trauma under layers of joy and pleasure when I realized that I enjoyed almost nothing, least of all being myself. And now we're here. So the questions that I'm asking today and that I ask you to think through with me are, what is the process of finding joy in yourself after trauma? How many of us are doing spiritual and emotional work to become someone new when in reality we're just looking for who we used to be? And how do spaces of joy and liberation, like the dance hall, like Carnival, and even queer spaces like the club, feel different for those of us whose bodies and spirits remember a whole lot of pain? And what do we do with that? Now, I want this presentation to be extremely interactive, so I'll ask a lot of questions and you can respond to the question in the chat. If you have a question for me, you can either put it in the chat or you can use the question and answer box. If you want to ask a question live, you can look in the reactions and use the raise hand feature, right? So the first thing that I actually want to ask you is this. What's the thing that you used to love to do that you just don't do anymore, or you do it way less, right? Please answer in the chat. What is the thing that you used to love to do that you just don't do anymore, or you do it way less? Okay, so somebody has answered. They said Joanne Payne. Tell me more, right? For many of us, the amount of pleasure in our life doesn't just magically disappear. It is a slow death. So slow that you don't even notice it. Over time, you stop one thing and then you stop another thing. And there are lots of reasons we offer to ourselves for why we stop. We say, oh, I'm too busy. oh, I'm an adult now. Like becoming an adult is one of the biggest reasons we give to ourselves for why we stop doing things that we find pleasurable. Oh, I don't like it anymore. I grew away from it. But often, if we should trace back to why we stopped, we'll find that the reasons are more complicated than what we're offering to ourselves. For instance, I love to sing. In high school, I would make up songs. I made up a song to explain photosynthesis. I also made up a song to explain the Krebs cycle. I used all of Mariah Carey's song repertoire to get me through my biology class, right? And at one point, I actually wanted to see somebody saying I did that too. At one point, I actually wanted to be a singer. That was my thing. I was like, yeah, girl, you are going on tour, straight up singer, right? And then so I signed myself up for a school concert. I said, yes, this is my debut. This is the moment. Like when them do behind the music, this is the moment. And then I sang loudly and very off key. I mean, the type of loud and off key that shook the entire auditorium of my high school. And so my co-singer, who is my friend, she and I went to the music teacher afterwards to get tips, right? And she was like, oh my God, we were singing in like 5 different keys, right? And she didn't mean we, she meant me, because she was clearly singing in the key that she should be in. It was my voice that was being shaky-bakey, right? And I was mortified. And then I said, okay, you know what? Let me go and get some support. So I went and found one of the other performing arts kids. And I was like, can you help me? And she said, sure, sing a song. So I decided that I was going to hit her with Killing Me Softly by the Fugees. Put it in the chat if you know Killing Me Softly by the Fugees, right? So from I hit the first, strumming my thing with his finger, I saw her face crumble, like a slow crumble. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to this concert because it is quite obvious that I cannot sing. I am the worst singer to ever sing. Now, what are the things that I'm overlooking? Until this point, I had no vocal training whatsoever, right? I just love singing. But that experience of publicly tanking, especially just that feeling of knowing that the whole auditorium could hear my voice crack, shifted my relationship with singing. And I did not have an interest in singing publicly anymore. Why? Because that experience tapped into a deep reservoir of shame that convinced me that something was wrong with me. The thing is, I was already walking with a portion of shame because I'd experienced trauma in my life. And the thing that it did was it led me to believe that I was a problem. Nothing good was going to come out of me. Something was fundamentally wrong with me. Experiencing the shame was so uncomfortable that I would just stop singing publicly to avoid experiencing again. I was willing to give up the pleasure in order to avoid the shame. Does this sound familiar to you? Does this sound familiar to any of you? I think I see that somebody's hand is up. Nope, it has gone back down. All right. So we'll continue. Right? All right. We'll keep going. So what do? Trauma, especially the type of trauma that creates shame, makes you deeply afraid of being seen, right? It makes you afraid of being witnessed. It's one of the reasons that a lot of us will avoid going into therapy or avoid going into life coaching or anything like that because we're deeply afraid that people will see us. It's also the reason why we will, for instance, shy away from anything that asks us to perform publicly because we don't want to be witnessed. Because you think that there's something wrong with you or you're pretty certain that something is going to go wrong, right? So if you're here and you're one of my life coaching clients, then you know what I'm about to say. The solution to this is you actually have to just do the thing. Not sit there and plan forever for when you're going to do the thing. You have to do it. So it's kind of like this. Boom. I'm taking my freedom. I'm pulling it off the shelf. I'm putting it on my chain. I'm wearing it around my neck. I'm taking my freedom. I'm putting it in my car. Wherever I choose to go, it will take me far. I'm living my life like it's golden. 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 Golden. So that's Golden by Jill Scott. This is the first time since that happened that I have chosen to sing publicly in front of a large group of people where it could be recorded. I've sung publicly twice since then. One of them was when my mother made me sing at karaoke because she deeply believes in my voice. But even though she does, I could not get over it, right? So I did it. And now today will be the day that I sang publicly in front of an audience and it was committed to a digital memory. You have to do the thing. Don Miguel Ruiz in the Four Agreements talks to us about how to free ourselves from self-limiting beliefs through making 4 key agreements. But the gag is what he's actually teaching us to do is to break other agreements we made. Like when somebody said, nobody's going to want to date somebody in a wheelchair, and you believe that. Like when somebody said, everybody is just going to see you as a victim. Nobody's going to want to date a victim. Like when somebody said, you're too dark skinned to be pretty. Oh, girl, you're here. You need to cream it. Nobody want that here. Your family will never accept the fact that you're queer. You're going to turn out just like your father. All of these things are decrees that people have made over us and our lives. And we, often because we encountered these agreements when we were so young, we lived into them, we agreed with them. And so if you actually want to experience pleasure after trauma, you have to break those old agreements. You have to allow yourself to be witnessed because there's actually nothing wrong with you, right? The next thing that trauma can do is there anybody else who wants to sing or dance on camera? Let me know now. I'll make the space. Is there anybody else who wants to have a small revolution in their home? If not, just save the space and we'll come back. Okay. I mean, child, I'm out here breaking shackles. Okay, so the next thing that trauma can do to you, somehow in a house clothes, is it can completely reorient your relationship with your body, right? Sexual trauma in particular does this, but any trauma that's related to the body. So having people direct excessive amounts of attention to your body because it's non-normative in any way can become a site of trauma. Spaces like Carnival and Dancehall and the club, they're liberatory spaces, they're freeing spaces because there's music, there's dancing. It allows you to connect with your tribe, especially if you come from an oppressed group and you don't get to spend a lot of time with people like you. But these spaces can also become very much about the body, the dancing body, the display of the body, right? The whining on each other in the fit. So these spaces are not always sexual, but they are sensual because these are spaces that will reconnect you with your senses, which can make them very uncomfortable. So the question is, do you actually feel safe in the fit? And when I'm talking about the fit, I'm talking about when you're in the session in the dance hall, when you are on the road for Carnival, when you are in the club and people are voguing and death dropping and resurrecting themselves in a very symbolic act. Do you feel safe in the fit? For those of us who have survived bodily trauma, the body can become a battleground. So we learn to engage our bodies sparingly. For those of us who have gone through the process of counseling, we might start to think about language like disassociating. How do I disassociate from my body, right? But what it really is that we inhabit our bodies, but we don't really live there. We don't fill out the body completely. Finding pleasure after that kind of trauma is primarily about slowing down and allowing yourself to actually feel. But actually feeling can come across as a type of violence because really the thing that you want to do is to get away. So some questions, some questions that I want to ask you. When you're dancing and somebody starts whining on you, how do you feel? Not just the one thing. What are all of the things that you feel when you are whining and somebody else comes and starts whining on you? When you're walking down the road in your costume with your belly out, how do you feel? Not just, okay, I went to the gym and I got it together, or even not just, I have love handles. What is the fullness of what you feel when you are asked to reconnect with your body or even put your body on display? When the crew starts drinking and you're drinking with them, and you're at that point where things start to get blurry, Caribbean people will say, that feels sweet. What do you feel aside from the sweetness? What else do you feel in that moment when Perhaps it feels like you're losing control. Perhaps it feels like you're relaxing too much. What do you feel? I see somebody in the chat saying nervousness. Can they actually dance? Will they be dancing? Will they be handsy? Will I have to fight? Will they be a good workout partner? Will I have to reject them? When someone dances with me and I don't know them, I don't feel safe, right? When we enter into these spaces that we understand as built around liberation, it can be difficult for us sometimes to articulate the fullness of what comes up in those spaces. And I mean, we do the work, we do the work around like Carnival is woman and, trying to keep women safe in those spaces. Outside of the threat of sexual violence, which is very real, are there other things that you're also feeling? The body is a very complicated space because the body remembers, it remembers. Will they think I can't dance? Will they read this as an invitation to my body? Anxious feels new and exciting, but I feel bad for enjoying. All of these things come up. And this isn't only applicable to the sex. Many of us are great at sex, but we're not so great at intimacy because when things slow down, especially in sex, we feel too much, right? And we like it, but not a lot. We don't like it. And I have a poem about this. It's called Speed Trap. I believe it's up on my YouTube channel, and I won't read it here because it's very intense and it can be triggering, but it sums up the experience. But what is the actual speed that you need to move at so that you can fully experience what you are feeling inside of pleasurable situations so that you can be authentic to yourself? Somebody said, am I being witnessed or just watched? Right? So, what do we do with all of this? You slow down and you return home to your body. And yes, despite all of the things that have happened, your body is still a good place to live. You may need support in doing this. I could not have imagined how much support it would have required for me to just return to my body. I could never have thought of it. Finding pleasure after traumatic, it takes friends who are willing to hear you out. It takes therapists and other types of healers who are willing to give you tools. It takes shadow work to understand the parts of yourself that you've hidden away and why you've hidden them away. It takes patience with yourself and a deliberate practice that moves away from self rejection. Because when that part of ourselves that is uncomfortable inside of spaces of joy comes up, one of the first things that we will want to do is reject it. Because why are you being difficult? Why are you making this complicated? Why are you making this so hard? But you're not making it so hard. You are having a human reaction to something that has actually happened to you and that you experience as happening to you in the present. So, some of the questions that you can think through when you're trying to find pleasure after bodily trauma and when you're trying to deal with this issue of pace is actually, am I the type of person who needs far more space? Oh, the connection is making me sound lower. That is not what we're going to put up with. Okay, I'll. Um, are you the type of person who actually needs more space than other people in order to connect with yourself, to hear your own voice and feel your own feelings? Are you the type of person who actually needs the type of relationship where you don't live with your partner? Do you need the type of relationship where it's understood that your partner will be in that room and you will be in this room? And it doesn't mean you don't care about them. It just means that you need more room to yourself. Are you the type of person who legitimately cannot live in a high-rise building because you can't feel your own emotions when other people's emotions are crowding in on you? How much space do you need, right? Does the life that you currently live give you that? Does the pace of your current life give you that type of space in order to figure yourself out? And what would your life look like if you centered your own healing and pleasure in a holistic way? How would your life look different? I remember a few years ago, I got a copy of The Power of Now. And since I really did not think about The Power of Now, it took me about a year and a half to actually read the book because I am a Hall of Fame procrastinator. Like, honestly, I can get something and I need to type 2 lines, and it takes me 2 weeks to type the 2 lines because, I build up all of this anxiety about the 2 lines, about even opening the email with the 2 lines, and all of these types of things. But when I finally actually got around to reading the book, there was one thing that somebody said failed. There was one thing that stuck out to me, and it was this: no thing wants to die. Right? No thing wants to die. And what does that mean in this context? It means that for those of us who have experienced trauma, we live in that energetic space of struggle until we try to figure out the work of moving someplace else. For those of us who have experiences of trauma, struggle is actually the thing that is most familiar to us. And so we will continue to engage in struggle, to engage in things that make us feel like we are struggling. We will continue to put ourselves in proximity to trauma because it's actually the only thing that we know. No thing wants to die. And when you make the decision that you're going to move away from struggle, when you make the decision that you are going to make a change in your life, it's going to feel brutal because the dying thing is going to throw up spikes. It's going to sink claws into you. It's going to do anything that it can do to you to keep you in place because no thing wants to die. And you have to put some respect on it because for many of us, we are not first generation trauma survivors. We are not first generation survivors of trauma. We are descendants of people who have survived various colonial projects, attempted genocide, violence and assaults of multiple kinds. And so we carry that memory in our body. Let me see in the chat if you know for a fact that you sabotage joy. Let me just see it in the chat. If you know for a fact that you sabotage joy, that when you start to feel too happy and things look like they're doing too well, you just find something to do. It's either you find a fault or a reason why this should be happening, or you just create a whole situation, your own personal drama, to put it here. We're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? And I mean, some of it actually comes back to the things that we have been taught as or folk knowledge, right? And in misinterpretation of it. And I see that Mara is here, and she and I talk about this one all the time. Chicken Mary Hot Denier. Chicken Mary Hot Denier was sweet and a goat to go run in belly. Somebody said, don't get too happy is my inner monologue, right? Chicken Mary Hot Denier was sweet and a goat to go run in belly. We have the expectation that when something good happens, something bad will necessarily follow, almost as a punishment. And if we think about it, this is knowledge that was created by people who were surviving on plantations. And so that type of brutality was their everyday life. And so, yes, you really do have to be mindful of what is the thing that could happen if you take your eye off of the ball, if you forget where you are and you lose yourself. But what has happened is because we have continued to use this type of knowledge as technologies without interrogating them or updating them, we are constantly reminding ourselves of threats, especially in our places of joy. And we're uncomfortable there because we believe that it's going to bring something bad our way, right? Our bodies remember. Our communities remember. We remember trauma. Energetically, we are steeped in suffering. It is the place where a lot of us have set up home. And that space of suffering, like anything else, will fight for its right to exist. And that's why therapy is so uncomfortable, because that energy does not want to die. That's why it makes you feel so uneasy. But you have a right to change it, and you deserve a space where you can do so. There. Okay. I see one question in the chat here. And And the question is, how do you distinguish between an attachment to struggle versus leaning into an empowering practice of resistance? This is actually a really good question, because I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with dealing with struggle, dealing with trauma. I am saying that when that becomes the primary thing or the exclusive thing and it's not balanced out by something else, we can get into problems. We can get into problems. So for me, for instance, my addiction to struggle created a life for me where almost everything I did surrounded service and trauma. Now, I'm a healer. That's my life's path. So, I'll end up there. But there wasn't any point in my life where I was deliberately cultivating joy. There wasn't any project that I was working on where the focus of the project was happiness. My creative self was kind of just languishing because I leaned on that service muscle so heavily. And it came from a good place. I wanted to heal. I wanted to heal the world. I wanted to support people in their healing. But it also became a space where there was just one energy in my life. And I was never able to transmute it, because as soon as I would transmute it, more would come. And I had never reserved a space for myself, like another little sacred space for myself that was just about joy. I was not deliberate and intentional in creating joy. So for me, that line is actually, okay, is this the thing that I'm doing exclusively? Then I need to renegotiate my relationship with the struggle. Let me know if that clarifies anything for you, Aisha, right? So the question that I pose to you is this: how much of your life's path or your life's work avoids or minimizes pleasure? How much of your work, is just about things that are not enjoyable? And I'm not just talking about like your day-to-day job, though I am talking about your day-to-day job. How much of what you identify as your life's work, how much of how you arrange your days, how much of the topic you choose to study, how much of the organizations that you choose to align with are just not based on pleasure? How much of your social justice work ignores the fact that pleasure is actually a part of liberation, right? Which is why I think that this space is so important, because it reorients us to that work, right? How many of us work on research trauma? How many of us overwork ourselves in service-based jobs? Because it's not enough that we go into a job that's about service. No. You need to be working 7 days a week, 18-hour days. That's the only way it's going to feel good, right? How many of you have taken on the role of motivator or inspirer, inspirator to your crew, to people on social media, which is great because you help people. But what actually has happened is that the space where you can receive support keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking because you always have to have it together, right? And this is not about a trauma-informed world or trauma-informed responses, because child, the older we have trauma-informed really needs to be where we're going. But how many of us have chosen trauma-based lives? The energy of suffering is familiar to us, and so we set up shop there. We make homes there. And so at what point does this work actually become a hiding place? At what point does the work that we do actually become a way for us to avoid pleasure or joy because we're uncomfortable there, because it's unfamiliar? Not because we don't want it, but because we're not familiar with it. And because it's unfamiliar, it feels uncomfortable. So what can we do? I don't know if we're not going to like that one here, but see it here, take the path of most resistance. Take the path of most resistance. Understand that if you have experienced trauma and you are living in that energetic space of suffering, the thing that feels the easiest for you will be to go towards more suffering. It will be to underprice yourself. It will be to stay in a relationship that does not serve you. It will be to continue to not speak up for yourself when somebody is taking advantage of you. It will be to see something that you will enjoy and something that you know is going to stress you out and choose the stressful thing because you think it's the noble way, because you associate joy with wanton, unchecked, unhealthy privilege. And so you think that there is virtue in suffering. Take the path of most resistance. Intentionally and mindfully move towards something that feels strange to you. Something like ease, something like not being a martyr, something like receiving. Some people here are so wedded to the energy of struggle that if I said to you, you know, you have a good life, you'd feel as though I was accusing you of something. If I said to you, you know, you have a good life, you would feel as though I was trying to take something away from you. You'd feel uneasy because without you struggle, you don't know who you are. Because we have problematized privilege in such a way that we have created a binary and we can't live there. And so if we ever have to engage our privilege, we feel as though we are failing as people because, yeah, you have a good life and it's okay for you to have a good life. None never dead for your suffer. None of all of your forefathers and your elders and your ancestors never struggle for you come here, come suffer at the same level. You have a good life, you're supposed to. They struggled for it, right? It is safe for you to receive. It is safe for you to receive. It doesn't make you spoil. It is safe for you to receive. Listen to what I'm saying to you. You hear what I'm saying to you? It is safe for you to receive. It's good for you to receive. It's good for you to receive. You do not always have to do in return. It's good for you to receive. It's safe. It's safe for you to feel. You are supported in feeling. It's safe for you to enjoy things. It is safe for you to enjoy things. It's safe for you to be seen. It's safe for you to show yourself to people. It's safe for you to let people see you. It is safe for you to let people see you. It is safe for you to be witnessed. It is safe for you to try things that you have never tried before. It is safe for you to let people see you not be good at things because you want the experience of doing things because that brings you pleasure. It's safe for you to be imperfect. You will still be loved. It's safe for you to be yourself. It's safe for you to be yourself. It's safe for you to enjoy being yourself. It's safe for you to choose yourself. It's safe for you to choose to believe your side of the story. It's safe for you to think that your opinion counts. It is safe for you. It is equitable for you to do so. The thing that you're dealing with didn't start with you. If we believe that trauma can change the body and that a person can pass the epigenetic markers of trauma onto their offspring, then we know that our bodies carry the memories of people before us. It carries their trauma. It predisposes us to suffering. We may lack the tools to create joy because we don't have many reference points. How many of you come from communities or families where you live with people who have deliberately sought out joy, who have put pleasure and joy at the center of their existence? And I'm not only talking about choice. How many of you come from communities where the people there have had the privilege of being able to do so? If you're a person of color, if you come from the developing world, if your family has come through any type of colonial project and they weren't the colonizers, if you are working class, it's safe to say you have probably not had that privilege for very long. And so you may have that privilege and not even know how to use it because you have no reference point, but you have to go and find them. If there's one thing that I want to leave with you today, it's this. You cannot go back and make it go away. The thing that happened to you, the traumatic thing, you can't make it go away. It's on your record, for better or for worse, it's there. but you can stop now and you can determine that this is the moment you change your relationship with your trauma. This is the moment that you decide the type of defining feature it is in your life. This is the moment where you decide that instead of accepting that trauma begets more trauma and suffering begets more suffering, that the traumatic thing will become a point that you move from, a lesson that you carry with you, but something you move from. It's not your home. Deliberately seeking pleasure after trauma is life's work. It requires a certain illogic. Sometimes it requires a bad attitude. The people who don't understand what you're doing will say that. They will say your attitude stink. They will say you get rich and switch. They say you think you're better than everybody. They will tell you that, oh, you're brainwashed. It's fine. They have their chance to live their life in the way they want to, and you have the right to live your life in the way you want to. Finding pleasure after trauma requires that you do things you have never done before and things nobody else around you has ever done before. You deserve pleasure, even after those bad things that happen to you. And I want you to hear this. Even after the bad things you've done, because some of you have so much guilt and shame because of the bad things that you've done that you would deny yourself pleasure forever and forever. Amen. I hope that from this point forward, you understand you deserve joy. You have the power to make new agreements. You have the right to slow down, and you have the strength and the courage to take the path of most resistance, because there is nobody, regardless of their race, sexual identity, gender, ability, stuff, none of that, who deserve a better life than you. Thank you. And now I will open for any questions. I think I see two up here. Okay, this is a great question. So the question is, I noticed that whenever I maximized the thing accidentally. I noticed that every time I choose the path of most resistance, engage emotion, stand up for myself, even just admit certain things to myself, I go through so much physical exhaustion. Is that normal? If so, why? It's absolutely normal, and it's absolutely normal because you're doing hard work. So you are asking yourself to engage a lot of energy in changing your mind, in making different choices. It's possible that you might end up coming into conflict with people that you value. Even if you don't come into conflict with people that you value, you come into conflict with yourself. The deeper the trauma, the deeper the need for self-care. When you're doing this type of work, you have to take very deep care of yourself. And that's why pace becomes a big question. Can you maintain the current pace of your life and make the changes that you need to make? Because sometimes just confronting one demon in the face of answering an email that brings up all of your anxiety takes your energy, and you're not useful for the rest of the day. Does the pace of your current life allow you to care for yourself in the way that you need to care for yourself if you are actually to address some of this trauma in a meaningful way? It is absolutely normal for you to be that exhausted because this is actually hard work, right? How can one avoid a trauma-based life but still utilize the wisdom from the experience? Great question. How can one avoid a trauma-based life but still utilize the wisdom from the experience? It's how you use the wisdom. It's how you use the wisdom and what else you do with your life. So for example, I know that I have experienced trauma, and I know that a good amount of my trauma, anything that I've experienced, is going to be put into service of healing other people because that's my lifestyle. I'm 100% clear on that. That's why the universe put me here. I'm a healer. I'm descended from healers. My mother is a healer. My grandmother was a healer. If you look on them hands, them have the healer hands, all of it, right? Recently come to find out my father is apparently a healer as well. Who knew? Man has done a lot of things in his latter years, right? But it's how you use it. How do you use it? I can apply my trauma-based knowledge in such a way that I can help people to move beyond trauma and then try to figure out how to live more fulfilling lives. I can use that knowledge to help people move beyond it and figure out how to move to a space of joy. And I can also do that work while holding a space of joy for myself. And that was a big thing that I was not doing. I was helping everybody overcome their trauma. I was supporting them in doing that work, but I was not holding a space of life for my joy for myself. And also, I was deeply uncomfortable with the idea of doing anything that was not trauma based because it didn't feel like real work. You know, after you live with trauma and you feel, oh, oh gosh, this is the real thing. Like, this is the real thing. We need to get to the real issue. This is the serious thing. And then everything else feels kind of frivolous. It don't serve as much as a purpose, all of those types of things. Child, it's okay to do work that's not just about trauma. It's okay to create things that are not rooted in trauma. I promise you, these things are also useful to the world, right? Next question. What advice would you have to be comfortable in the building of pleasure and joy-based life? Sometimes trying things out can bring such joy that it makes you almost uncomfortable in your body because you have no language to compute it intellectually. Yeah. So the question is, what advice would you have to be comfortable in the building of pleasure and a joy-based life? Sometimes trying things out can bring such joy that it makes you almost uncomfortable in your body because you have no language to compute it intellectually. Yes. So my answer to that is, you don't have to compute it intellectually. That's the first thing. Give yourself permission to not compute it intellectually. Give yourself permission to experience the thing and go, one day I'll know how to experience this and move on. I think when I started doing just various types of work on myself, I had this idea that I had to understand everything immediately. And if I couldn't understand something, then it would stress me out, right? But at some point, I came to the realization that, well, some things you're not going, some things are a slow boil for you. You have to sit with them and let them stew, throw in a carrot, add a chocho, put piece of onion, make it stew. And then over time, it will come clearer to you. You don't have the experience yet to make sense of that. And I think giving myself that time has been important. The other thing is, sometimes I squeal. Sometimes when I'm experiencing deep joy and I don't know what to do with it, my body feels uncomfortable with, I squeal, or I just jump up and down. I just let it out, I let it consume me. The other thing is, and this is actually like, I don't know if, so we probably have time for like one more question. Allow yourself to feel uncomfortable. Well, allow yourself to be okay with the discomfort of being out of control. Because sometimes that thinking, that intellectualizing, that sense making that we're trying to do with emotional experiences is us trying to reestablish control for ourselves. If I can articulate a situation, if I can intellectualize a situation, then I am back in control of the situation. And when we can't do those things, we feel deeply uncomfortable and confused, and like it bothers us excessively. So allow yourself to be comfortable with not feeling absolutely in control and not being able to make sense. There's a reason that so many of us who have trauma that go into academia and go on to advanced study, because that something feels for us. It feels like it has possibility for us, but we don't always get to be in control of everything, right? And that's like, I'm really coming to the end of my time. I have like 2 minutes left. Jonathan, I'm not giving your edges back. I'm not giving anybody any edges back. No, if anybody was dragged, it was with love. I dragged you with love. And so before my time runs out, I just want to say, big up yourself to everybody who was here. Yes, tender loving drag, just tender loving drags. And please seek out the pleasure that makes sense for you, right? Seek out the pleasure that makes sense for you. The things that you find pleasurable don't have to be the things that other people find pleasurable. It's okay for you to have tiny adventures. I have tiny adventures. I go for just short walks in my community, and I go and look at the strange thing that's one road up, and that's my adventure. That's the level of adventure that feels safe for me, and that's fine. I go somewhere and maybe I don't actually go into the water because the water look wild right now, but I look at it and I went, right? So please reclaim your life from the trauma. Allow the trauma to walk with you, but do not allow it to walk ahead of you. Your trauma cannot clear space for you in that way. Only yourself can do that. Oh, thank you. Thank you to the organizers. And yes, y'all, I think that we are absolutely at the end of the time for this session. So thank you for spending this Sunday morning with me. And if you want to find me, I am at More Talk JA, MOORETALKJA on most platforms. I am not on TikTok. I feel I am too old for it. All right. Love, 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 love.
Thank you so much, Carla. Wow. A whole service on this Sunday morning.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Everyone, I put More Talk JA in the chat. Definitely connect with Carla on all platforms. Carla is spitting all these gems on a regular basis. So if you need some more of this in your life, some of this refueling and re-energizing, definitely check Carla out there. But this has been so great. I appreciate you, Carla. If folks are interested, we have another panel after this. Definitely check that out. But anything else you want to say before you sign off?
I just want to say to people the same thing that I say all the time. Take time with each other, but most importantly, take time with yourself. You are a whole human being doing the best you can. If the world is going to be hard with you, there is no point with you being hard with you too. So take time with yourself.
Yeah. Yes, a whole life coach.
I know.
Y'all, actually, go.
A life coach.
Yes. Hit Carla up. Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna end this call for everyone, but all of y'all take care, okay?